I think we're recording now. So, Pamela,
Okay.
it's nice to meet you.
You as well.
I've been looking forward to this call. I had an opportunity to look at your LinkedIn bio, and you've had an accomplished career. Yeah, I'm a little uncertain on where this conversation might go, but I'm looking forward to it. All right.
Great.
So, Pamela, just real quick, you might see me kind of look down every now and again. I've got a good old-fashioned notebook here.
Yep.
If you're comfortable, I could take a few notes up during the call.
Sure.
If I don't miss anything. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. Excellent. Okay, and we've got about 20 minutes or so.
Right.
I know you've got back-to-back appointments today, so I just want to make sure we're cognizant of time and we're moving along.
Yes.
Sound good?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Well, this is a coaching call, so what is there a specific area in your life or career right now that you'd like to focus on today's call?
Well, I think I want to zero in on something particular in my business.
Okay.
So I'm in the process of well, let me back up. I'm a consultant and also an educator, so former faculty at HULT International Business School, by the way.
I noticed that.
Yes, there you go. And I used to teach this course.
I'm not intimidated at all.
But I have a consulting practice that I started in 1997, and I most recently, in the past 2 years, have been focusing on standing up a new line of service, a new part of my business. And one of the things that I've done in the course of developing this new service is I've started a podcast, which you probably saw on LinkedIn. I think I posted something last night, one of the episodes. And so the podcast itself originated a couple of years ago. I did a project for UBS, the bank, and with some of my colleagues in the Middle East. They brought me into the project, and UBS wanted to do a research report around women in the Middle East and their relationship to investing in money and finance and financial literacy. And so I designed the program, did the research. We went to UAE and Saudi and Jordan and interviewed people. Created the report. It was very successful for UBS, but one of the things that I felt we didn't get to in the research and in the interviews was getting underneath the real stories of, how did your core values come through in this investment decision, or what impact did your motivation have on your decisions, and really getting to the human side of the story. So last fall, I was going to the Middle East on business. I said, well, why don't I go back and interview some of these people? Maybe I'll do a podcast. And so that's kind of how the idea came up.
Okay.
Because I've been on a podcast. I'd never created one. And so I rented a studio in Amman, Jordan for a day. And I figured that would be a good way for me to learn how to do it. And so long story short, in January, started the podcast, and we're just finishing up the first season. Mm-hmm. So that background's important, because I think what I could use some assistance with is to figure out now, how do I connect the podcast to this new line of service model and increase traffic and momentum and engagement.
Excellent. Okay. Well, if I were to kind of summarize this real quickly, so you're excited about your new podcast that you launched this year. It's really focusing on financial literacy and interviewing guests and drawing stories from them.
It's not focused. It's not focused on financial literacy. So that was the original research.
That's the original. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the original. It was focused on that. But there's so much more to the story, and so that's what I want to focus on. Okay,
so it's the stories of your guests.
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad to clarify. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Sure. So we've complete a successful season or your first season,
Right.
and you know, if you're kind of looking at season 2 or 12 months from now, like what does that look like for you? If you were to talk to me a year from now, and you had 5 minutes to kind of summarize what was successful about this next season, what would you say to me, or what's something that would resonate with me?
I think I would probably say that I've gotten better at interviewing. Right. So, I mean, just like any craft, if you understand it and you practice it and you perfect it, you get better at it. It becomes higher quality. So I think for me, that would be one thing. I think maybe another would be that the depth of the conversations, maybe, and this goes hand in hand with, you know, like how I interview and talk to people, because I just like we're talking now, that's my style. But I do think that I could go deeper in some topics. So, you know, for example, having a conversation around imposter syndrome and how does that show up when you're leading a huge company, and what are some of the mechanisms you could use to cope with that? What have you done? You know, and so really maybe following up on some of the themes, because there are about, I would say, 6 to 8 themes that I find across all of the podcasts. So that would be maybe a second thing would be to go deeper. And then, you know, the third is, as I say, to connect the podcast with the other line of services that I'm setting up.
Okay. So there's a few things in there. Why don't I start by asking you this question? Could you describe to me how you would prepare for an interview today?
So what I typically do is, even before the interview, and these are people that I invite. So they're either individuals whom I know, or people are starting to introduce me to folks, saying, you should talk to so-and-so. They have a great story. And so there's always a human connection. And so I don't just send an email blindly. I think a lot of podcast hosts do that, but I establish a relationship. I meet with them. I have a conversation. Based on that conversation, I will put together questions. I do research on them and look at, you know, on LinkedIn or papers they've written, and see, you know, what is their perspective, so that these may be things that could be hooks in the conversation. And that's how I prepare.
Excellent. Okay, that's insightful. So you had mentioned that, you know, one of your goals was deeper, more meaningful connections within the conversation. So this preparation practice you have today, if you were to take a step back and assess that, have you considered any options on how that might be improved in your mind moving forward?
You know, after every session, I have Claudette, my little BFF, also known as Claude, critique the conversation and give me feedback. So I do that, and I think for me, it's also in the moment. While I'm interviewing, and it's not even interviewing. When I'm talking to someone in the podcast, it's about remembering to do that, because the conversations go where they go, right? So I start with a list of questions. I send that to the person. I do not read the questions. I've had experience on podcasts where I'll get the questions, and then the host will actually read them one by. I don't do that. I go where the conversation takes us, and so it's, you know, it's generative in that way, which is, I think, more natural. But I need to remember to come back then to, you know, oh, you did say X, Y, and Z. Let's dig into that a little bit more. Sometimes I just get caught up in the conversation.
And so you receive feedback from Claudette. And that's been helpful to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any other forms of feedback or self-assessment tools that you've applied in this process that has been helpful for you?
So I have an assistant who she goes in after the recording is done, and she takes out the ums and the ahs, and if we have to stop, she'll then edit it together. And so she'll give me feedback, and it's interesting because I'll ask her after every episode, I'll ask her, what did you think? Very open-ended, right? What did you think about that episode? And just get her impression. And she's a 20-something, her young woman, and her perspective. So she gives me feedback, and then I'll ask her directly, how did this come across? How did that come across? And then I'll go in and I'll listen to it again.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. A second thing you mentioned was connecting your podcast to your services. So maybe allow me to explore that a little bit there. Can you tell me what has worked, what hasn't worked in this part of your process?
Well, it's kind of too early to tell, because the podcast is, it's a standalone. I'm getting momentum. I think I have listeners in 21 countries.
Oh, yeah.
It may just be one person in a country, but it still counts.
Still counts. Yep.
Still counts. And so I feel like now that I understand how to do it, I've been doing it. The infrastructure is in place. I've automated a lot of the workflow with AI. And so now I'm at the point where I'm looking at how do I use the podcast as an entry point to a community that I'm standing up online. And the community will, it'll be a platform for people to come together and to talk about, leadership and management. And it's more business, but also personal development focused. And then there will be a section of the platform for consulting services, because one of the service lines that I've been working on is AI integration services. So working with whether it's a leader to help them to get up to speed on the technology and the AI, and how it can help their organization. And then really looking at just a traditional consulting process and applying an AI lens to it. So trying to figure out, the Global Grit Conversations podcast, that is more for visibility and engagement. And it may not be directly correlated to my consulting services. So that's too early to tell, I think.
Yeah. Well, this is super well thought out and impressive as a listener. Just getting to know you. So you've obviously put a lot of thought into this. You've taken time to reflect and improve processes and streamline, etc. What do you feel is the next step? Is there something that you've explored already or considered that maybe is something you might want to move forward on?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just building up the online school. Right now I've invited, I think there are six people that I know. I'll say, here's a link, go in, tell me what you think. And, it's kind of got one foot on we're ready to go to beta, another foot on, oh my goodness, we're not ready to go to beta. And so that's where I am. And so the next, I just need to jump in. It's also the fear of, okay, do I really want to do this? Of course I do. I'm committed. I'm in it.
That's right.
Just take the plunge.
That was going to be my follow-up question is, okay, what's holding you back right now? You've just described to me what you think you need to do. Right. I think it's in your subconscious already. Tell me, as your coach, what do you feel? What is that next step? If you were to pinpoint one thing.
I think the next step, and I started doing it last night, I started building, a list of people that I just want to start inviting in. And,
Yeah.
the whole foundation for this community is that it is community based, and it's about inviting and engaging people, inviting them to come into a platform. And for me, it's going to be looking at curated content. So a lot of it is they're tools that I've developed, or could be research that I've come across. And then it's about conversations, and then it's about creating community, and then consulting. And so I've already started it, and I started a list last night of people that I want to slowly invite. And I think that's the way it happens, is organically. I think in my mind, it's, I come out of tech where, you have a formal launch and everything builds up to the launch. But I think, this is more of like a drip, drip, drip. And I'll stand up, I'll upload different, courses or tools as they're available, and then just get the momentum going and build the audience first. And then the content will follow. Yeah.
And it's fortunate you've had a season already to kind of work through some of this, right? And, what I'm hearing is the next step really is to start building this list, which you started last night, continue to expand it, and start to action item some of those contacts on your list to invite them into your podcast, right?
Yes.
So is there a timeline in your mind? Is this something that you look forward to? It's like you said, a bit of a drip process, but are we in the next month or next quarter? Talk to me.
I mean, it's drip, and I would hope that within 60 days I'll be up and running, and I'll have an audience. And my goal is to have 500 to 1,000 members by the end of the year. And I should probably have started that with the G, but is my goal. But I do think, and again, it's only been since April that I stumbled on this platform, and it's amazing. I mean, there are different communities that have 9,000, 16,000 members, and I think that it's a different style and a different approach to the work that I've been doing for quite some time.
No, it sounds like we're on the right track here, and looking forward here. So 500 to 600 members, in the next couple of months. Again, you've completed a season already. So there's lots of things in here I like. I would just task this, or not a task, but I would just ask you, is this something that you've written down or put on paper or shared with anybody, or is this just up in your?
Oh, it's in the vault, but
it's in the vault,
it's in the vault, but I have it in different places. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you sound super committed to this. This is something you've put a lot of energy into. Yeah. All right. So if you were to kind of quantify that, if I were to say 10 is like it's do or die, and 1 is like it's kind of a fleeting thought, it sounds to me you're more on the upper side, but
and I would say a 9.
But a 9, okay, that's what I figured. Okay, excellent. Well, I think just to kind of recap and summarize here, so 500-600 listeners or followers on your podcast. You're excited for season 2. Again, you're really wanting to improve the quality of conversations in terms of in-depth and storytelling. But if the primary goal we have right now is developing these lists and actioning those lists. Is that sounding accurate? Okay.
Sounds good.
Fantastic. Yes. Okay. So that's great. I guess the last question I have is there what's holding you back right now? Or is it, again, you said you started already, but
I've started. Yeah. And I think, for me, it's just carving out the time, which I'm starting to do. So I need to do more of that. And then just focusing.
Okay.
Yes.
As your coach, what do you need from me to support this goal of yours?
I would say, check-ins are always good. So if you were my coach, I would say, having having milestones and, being very clear between now and the next time we meet, this is what we are going to accomplish, and just breaking it down into smaller tasks.
Yeah. And you mentioned a 2-month window in here. So I've made a note of this. I'd like to check in with you in 2 months from now to see how you're making out with this.
Sure.
Does that sound fair?
Sure. That sounds good.
Fantastic.
Sure. All right.
Well, I appreciate your time today. I know you're super busy, and I've learned a lot about your podcast adventure, and so exciting. And I wish you all the best.
Great. Thanks so much, James. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Off to